Hey, my name is Ethan. I'm 29. 3 weeks ago, I was just an appliance tech who fixed broken washers for people I'd never see again. Then, I walked into this woman's laundry room, blood dripping from my knuckle onto her antique floors, and she pressed a paper towel to my hand with fingers that smelled like expensive shampoo. When I saved her floors from flooding, she looked at me with these tired, grateful eyes and whispered, "You just saved me. Let me return the favor." She was 42, married, wearing a wedding ring that cost more than my truck, and I knew right then that everything was about to change. If you're watching this right now, tell me where you're from in the comments, because I still don't know if what we did was wrong. I looked at the emergency ticket that Tuesday morning like I looked at all of them. Water damage, antique floors, urgent. The kettle hissed in the break room at ClearCycle Appliances. Riley was scrolling through her phone, probably posting another meme about broken dryers. She was 19 and treated every service call like content for her Instagram stories. "Big money call," she said, reading over my shoulder. "Whitmore Court. That's the gated place with the fountain, right?" I nodded, grabbed my tool bag. The dispatch sheet said Charlotte Whitmore, 8:10 a.m. callback, water pooling under unit. "Want me to come?" Riley asked. I could use the practice. "Stay here, answer phones." The truth was simpler. ClearCycle had a policy. One customer complaint meant docked pay, two meant review, three meant gone. I'd seen it happen to Martinez last month. Some rich lady said he'd been inappropriate because he'd asked to use her bathroom. I kept my record clean. The security gate at Whitmore Court lifted after I showed my work order to the guard. An older woman with sharp eyes watched from the little booth. Nora something, according to her nameplate. She made a note on her clipboard as I drove past. The house sat at the end of a curved street lined with identical mailboxes and perfect lawns. Red brick, white shutters. The kind of place that smelled like money before you even got out of your van. I parked in the circular driveway and checked my phone. 8:45 a.m. Right on time. The doorbell played a soft melody I didn't recognize. Classical, maybe. The kind of music that made you aware of the scuff marks on your boots. She opened the door. I'd expected. I don't know what I'd expected. Someone older, maybe. Stern. The voice on the phone had been polished but tired. Charlotte Whitmore was beautiful in the way women in their 40s could be beautiful, real, lived in. Her hair was pulled back but coming loose at the edges. She wore jeans and a cream-colored sweater that probably cost more than I made in a week. "You're from ClearCycle?" "Yes, ma'am. Ethan Cole." I held up my ID badge. "You called about water under your washing machine?" Her shoulders dropped like she'd been holding them up. "For hours." "Thank God. Come in, please." The house smelled like lemon oil and something else, something clean and expensive that I couldn't name. The floors were hardwood, old hardwood, the kind that would warp if water sat on it too long. "It's back here," she said, leading me through a kitchen that belonged in a magazine. Granite counters, stainless steel everything, a coffee maker that probably cost more than my rent. The laundry room was off the kitchen, bright, white cabinets, a washer and dryer that matched the kitchen appliances, and yes, water, pooled under the washer and starting to creep toward the hardwood in the hallway. "When did you first notice the leak?" "This morning? Maybe an hour ago?" She twisted her hands together. Gold wedding band, diamond engagement ring that caught the light. I started a load and heard this gurgling. Then I saw the water. I set my bag down and knelt beside the washer. The water was coming from the back. Supply line, maybe. Or the drain connection. "I'll need to move the machine to see what's happening. Could you grab some towels?" She disappeared into a closet and came back with an armload of white towels. Thick ones. The kind you found in nice hotels. I reached for the water shutoff valve behind the washer. The space was tight. Had to squeeze my hand between the machine and the wall. The metal edge of something caught my knuckle, tore the skin. Shit. I pulled my hand back. Blood welled up on my knuckle. Sorry. Language. You're hurt. She was already moving, tearing off a piece of paper towel, pressing it against the cut. Her fingers were cool against my hand. Steady. It's nothing, I said. Hold still. The paper towel fibers stuck to the blood. She held pressure for a moment longer than necessary. I could smell her shampoo. Something light, expensive. Better? I nodded, pulled my hand back slowly. It took 15 minutes to move the washer away from the wall. The supply line clamp had worked loose. Simple fix. But the water had been running for a while. Good news and bad news, I told her. The machine's fine. Just needed a tighter clamp. Bad news is this water's been sitting here for a while. We need to get it up fast or your floors are going to buckle. How fast? I looked at the puddle creeping toward the hallway. Now. We worked together, her on her knees with the towels soaking up water, me running the shop vacuum over the wet spots. The floors were old, probably original to the house. Beautiful. Worth saving. You're good at this, she said after a few minutes. It's just water. No, I mean, you know what needs to happen first. In what order? She sat back on her heels. I was panicking when I called. I couldn't think straight. I understood panic. I'd seen it plenty of times. People who knew their insurance wouldn't cover water damage. People who couldn't afford to replace antique floors. We'll save them, I said. The floors, then the machine. She smiled. First real smile I'd seen from her. It changed her whole face. The clock on the wall read 8:52. 20 minutes later, I had the washer back in place and the clamp properly tightened. The machine ran through a test cycle. Everything sounded normal. Charlotte stood beside me, watching the display countdown. She'd taken her rings off and set them on top of the washer. Said she didn't want to scratch the chrome when she was helping with the towels. So it was just loose? Happens more than you'd think. Especially with these front loaders, the vibration can work the clamps loose over time. She nodded, absorbed the information like it mattered, like she'd remember it next time. The diagnostics look good, I said, checking the digital display. Pressure's holding steady, no error codes. What do I owe you? I pulled out the work order. Standard service call, emergency rates because it was before 9 a.m. Company'll bill you directly, I said, but if you want, I can leave my card, in case the clamp loosens again. Yes, please. She took the card and studied it. Ethan Cole, Clear Cycle Appliances. My cell number printed in small black letters. Actually, she said, let me give you mine too. My cell number, in case it starts leaking again and Daniel's not here to call. Daniel? My husband. She wrote her number on the back of my work order. Charlotte Whitmore. 7 digits in neat handwriting. The washer finished its test cycle. The end chime played. A soft musical note that seemed to hang in the air. The door magnet clicked as the lock disengaged. 10 o'clock, she said, looking at the wall clock. You got here at 8:45 and the floors are saved. That has to be some kind of record. I packed my tools. The cut on my knuckle had stopped bleeding, but the paper towel fibers were still stuck to it. Mrs. Whitmore? Charlotte. Please. Charlotte, the clamp should hold fine now, but if you notice any water, any at all, call right away. Don't wait. I will. I headed for the door, stopped at the threshold. You said you were panicking when you called. About the floors? She nodded. There was something else, wasn't there, besides the water? She was quiet for a long moment. Her fingers played with the rings she'd put back on. I had a charity board meeting yesterday, she said finally. It didn't go well. He was cold this morning, distant, and then the washing machine started flooding and I couldn't handle one more thing going wrong. I understood. Sometimes it wasn't about the appliance. Sometimes people just needed someone to show up, someone competent and kind who could fix things. I'm glad I could help, I said. You didn't just fix the machine, she said. You just saved me. Let me return the favor. Coffee? I just made a fresh pot. I should have said no, should have smiled politely and left. That's what Martinez would have done. That's what anyone with sense would have done. But she looked so tired, so grateful, and the coffee did smell good. Just for a minute, I said. The coffee was perfect, strong but not bitter. She served it in real china cups with matching saucers. We sat at the kitchen island on bar stools that probably cost more than my tool bag. How long have you been doing appliance repair? She asked. 5 years. Started right out of high school. Do you like it? I thought about it, really thought about it. I like fixing things, I said. I like when something's broken and I can make it work again, especially when it's something people need, like washing machines or dishwashers, things that make life easier. She nodded like she understood. What about you? The charity work? Children's literacy programs. We raise money for books and reading programs in underserved schools. She stirred her coffee slowly. It's important work. I believe in it. But sometimes the politics, the board dynamics, it gets complicated. Hence yesterday's meeting. Hence yesterday's meeting. We sat in comfortable silence. The kitchen clock ticked. Somewhere in the house, a grandfather clock chimed the quarter hour. The warm towels were piled between us on the counter. White cotton, soft from expensive detergent. They smelled clean, safe. I should pay you extra, she said, for staying, for the floors. I shook my head. Company policy. No tips. Then let me give you this. She got up and filled a thermos from the coffee pot. Good thermos. Stainless steel with a tight-fitting lid. For the road. I shouldn't have taken it. But the coffee was the best I'd had in weeks, and she looked so pleased to have something to give me. Thank you, I said. That's when I noticed the shadow in the side window. Someone walking by. Slowly, like they were looking in. Mrs. Green, Charlotte said, following my gaze. Our neighbor. She keeps an eye on the street. My phone buzzed. Text from Riley. Need ETA? Shop wants to know. I should go, I said. Charlotte's phone lit up on the counter. Text message. I couldn't read it, but I saw the name. Daniel. Her face changed. The relaxed, grateful expression disappeared, replaced by something tighter, more careful. Of course, she said. Thank you again. For everything. I stood up, gathered my tools. The thermos was warm in my hand. Remember what I said about the water? Any amount. I'll remember. I was almost to the door when she called my name. Ethan? I turned back. Thank you for staying until the spin ended. I know you didn't have to do that. I didn't know what to say. So I just nodded. The garage door was humming when I walked to my van. Deep, mechanical sound that meant someone was coming home. The clock on my dashboard read 10:40. The power flicker happened at 11:05. I was just finishing my notes on the work order. Charlotte was folding the last of the towels. We'd been standing shoulder to shoulder, at the counter, not talking much, just being present. The lemon oil scent from the hallway drifted in on the air conditioning. She'd pocketed her wedding ring while folding, said it kept catching on the terry cloth, but when she pulled it out to put it back on, it slipped, skittered across the counter toward the edge. I caught it with my index finger, stopped it from falling. Careful, I said. She looked at the ring in my palm. White gold, diamond solitaire, beautiful, expensive. Thank you. Our fingers touched when she took it back. Brief contact. Accidental. That's when the lights dimmed. The power flicker only lasted maybe 5 seconds, but the laundry room door had one of those magnetic locks. When the power dipped, the magnet bit down harder, sealed us in. We stood in the half dark, not moving. Her hand was still near my wrist where she'd taken the ring. I could hear her breathing, soft and careful. The door magnet sticks on these models, I said quietly, when the power fluctuates. Oh, it'll release when the power stabilizes. Okay. But neither of us moved. The space between us felt charged, electric, like the air before a storm. I could smell her shampoo again, see the pulse point at her throat in the dim light. She was looking at me, really looking, like she was trying to memorize my face. The lights came back on. The washer chimed its end of cycle song. The garage door had stopped humming. Ethan? The voice came from the kitchen, male, authoritative. Everything under control? Charlotte went very still beside me, her eyes wide. That's Daniel, she whispered. Should I just don't say anything, please? She moved to the laundry room door, tried the handle, still locked. Charlotte? Daniel's voice was closer now. In the hallway, maybe. She looked at me, desperate. The pantry, she breathed. There was a narrow pantry next to the laundry room, deep enough for a person to stand in if they didn't mind the shelves of canned goods and paper towels. I slipped inside just as the door magnet clicked open. Daniel, Charlotte said, too bright, too cheerful. You're home early. Client meeting got moved. I told you in my text. Through the crack in the pantry door, I could see a slice of the kitchen, expensive shoes on expensive tile, a man in a good suit adjusting his tie. How did the service call go? He asked. Fine, all fixed. The floors are fine. And the serviceman? Gone, left about, 20 minutes ago. I heard papers rustling, probably the work order. This shows completion at 11:25, Daniel said. The digital clock on the microwave read 11:12. I asked him to run an extra cycle to make sure the fix held. Ah, more rustling. The kettle starting to whistle in the background. Someone was making tea. You know, these service companies, Daniel said, they train their people to upsell, to find problems that aren't really there. The water was real, Daniel. It was all over the floor. I'm not questioning the water. I'm questioning why it took 2.5 hours to tighten a clamp. Silence. The kettle whistled louder. Some of these guys, Daniel continued, especially the young ones, they see a nice house, a woman alone, they think they can take advantage, charge extra for unnecessary work, linger longer than they should. He didn't charge extra. Good, but Charlotte, next time something like this happens and I'm not here, call the office. Have them send someone older, more experienced. Of course, I heard footsteps on the stairs. Daniel heading up to change out of his suit, probably. Charlotte appeared at the pantry door a minute later. Her face was pale. You have to go, she whispered. Now. I grabbed my tool bag. She led me through the laundry room to a side door I hadn't noticed before. It opened onto a narrow path between her house and the neighbors. Hedges on both sides. Private. I'm sorry, she said. About that. About him. Don't apologize. I understand. Do you? I looked at her standing in the doorway, backlit by the laundry room lights, still holding the towels she'd been folding. He's protecting what's his, I said. Something flickered across her face. Hurt, maybe, or recognition. Take care of yourself, Charlotte. You too. I walked down the side path toward the street. The porch light hummed even though it was daytime. Some kind of automatic sensor, maybe. At the corner of the house, I glanced back. She was still in the doorway, watching me go. My phone buzzed. Riley again. Boss wants to know why you're not logged out yet. I texted back, leaving now. In the van, I filled out the completion report. Service call logged at 11:25 a.m. No additional parts required. Customer satisfied. Riley was waiting when I got back to the shop. How was the rich lady? She asked. Did she tip you in champagne and caviar? I got coffee. That's it? Coffee? I washed the cut on my knuckle in the break room sink. The paper towel fibers were still stuck to the dried blood. Charlotte's careful first aid. Sometimes that's enough, I said. Riley rolled her eyes and went back to her phone. But I kept thinking about the way Charlotte had looked at me in the dark laundry room, like she was trying to memorize my face, like she knew she might not see it again. I should have forgotten about her, should have moved on to the next call, the next broken appliance, the next customer who needed something fixed. But that night, lying in bed in my studio apartment, I could still smell lemon oil and expensive shampoo, could still hear the washer's end cycle chime playing like a song in my memory. And I wondered if she was lying awake too, thinking about the moment when the lights went out and we stood in the darkness, not touching, barely breathing, but somehow connected by something I didn't have words for. The next morning, I found the complaint in my email inbox. Inappropriate conduct, excessive time on premises, made customer uncomfortable, no signature, no details, just enough to start an investigation. I stared at the screen for 10 minutes before calling my supervisor. Eddie, it's Ethan. We need to talk. Eddie Morales had been my supervisor for 3 years. Good man, fair. He listened when I explained about the Whitmore call, the loose clamp, the water damage, the time it took to save the floors. Anonymous complaint, he said, reading from his computer screen. Says you were inappropriate with the customer, made her uncomfortable. That's not what happened. I believe you. But corporate doesn't care what I believe. They care about liability, about protecting the company image. I understood. ClearCycle serviced houses where people had more money than I'd see in a lifetime. One complaint from the wrong zip code could cost them contracts. What does this mean for me? Probation? 30 days? Any other complaints during that time? I'm gone. You're gone. I drove home that night thinking about Charlotte standing in her laundry room doorway. The way she'd said, "Take care of yourself," like she meant it, like she knew something bad was coming. Someone had made that call, someone who'd seen my van in her driveway and decided it had been there too long. I had a pretty good idea who. Thursday morning started early. Daniel Whitmore left the house at 6:30 with a wheeled suitcase. I wasn't watching, wasn't anywhere near Whitmore Court, but I heard about it later. Small details that came together like pieces of a puzzle. Charlotte stood in the empty house and listened to the silence, ran the washing machine empty just to hear the end cycle chime, almost texted me a thank you for saving the floors, stopped herself. At 9 a.m., she sat at her computer and paid my invoice, then paid it again. Double the amount with a memo. For the floors. I found out about the payment at lunch. My banking app pinged while I was eating a sandwich in the van between service calls. Deposit notification. Then another one. Same amount, same source. Charlotte Whitmore. I stared at the screen for 5 minutes, tried to figure out what it meant. She was saying thank you, or sorry, or both. I should have left it alone, should have called the billing department and had them refund the extra payment. That's what a smart person would have done. Instead, I drove to Whitmore Court on my break. Daniel's car wasn't in the driveway, but Nora Green was in her guard booth, watching everything with those sharp eyes. I parked outside the gate and walked to the visitor entrance. Service call? She asked. Delivery. I had an envelope with me, cash, exact amount of the overpayment, and a typed note on ClearCycle letterhead. Please replace your door magnet. It's sticking. Professional. Innocent. The kind of note any appliance tech might leave. The doorman took the envelope without asking questions. Promised to deliver it to Mrs. Whitmore. Walking back to my van, I felt Nora watching, cataloging, making notes. We're all safer when people don't linger, she called out as I reached the gate. I nodded, kept walking, but her words followed me back to the shop. That evening, Charlotte prepared for a small charity board dinner at her house, catering staff in the kitchen, lemon oil cloths out for the antique tables, everything perfect. Jenna Park arrived early to help. Charlotte's friend from Pilates class, kind woman, the type who noticed when people seemed off. You okay? Jenna asked, arranging flowers in the dining room. You seem distant. Just tired. It's been a long week. The kettle hissed in the kitchen. The catering staff was making tea for the guests. Charlotte, startled at the sound, checked the side gate latch twice. Charlotte, what's wrong? Nothing. I'm fine. But she wasn't fine. She was thinking about the envelope that had been returned to her that afternoon. Received, written on the outside in the doorman's handwriting. Professional, distant, like a wall being built between them. The dinner guests began arriving at 7. Board members and their spouses, people who moved in Charlotte's social circle, who judged and were judged by the same invisible standards. Everything went smoothly until Nora Green appeared at the front door with a stack of papers. Safety flyers, she announced to Charlotte. New guidelines for the neighborhood watch program. Charlotte had no choice but to invite her in. Nora moved through the house like she owned it, eyes everywhere, taking inventory. Lovely dinner party, Nora said, accepting a glass of wine she hadn't been offered. I hope the recent disturbances haven't affected your hosting. Disturbances? Service personnel lingering longer than necessary, making multiple trips. You know how these people can take advantage. The room went quiet. Board members exchanged glances. Daniel appeared at Charlotte's elbow, smile thin and sharp. I'm sure I don't know what you mean, Charlotte said carefully. Of course not, dear. You're too trusting, too kind. Nora's eyes drifted toward the laundry room door. But some of us have been keeping watch, making sure the neighborhood stays safe. Jenna tried to change the subject, asked about the next fundraiser, about the new reading program. But the damage was done. The words hung in the air like smoke. Charlotte's phone buzzed. Text message. She glanced at the screen and felt her heart stop. The envelope had been returned. From the doorman. Simple message. Delivered as requested. Relief and fear mixed in her chest. Ethan had gotten her overpayment, had tried to return it, had been professional and appropriate and everything he was supposed to be. But Nora had seen him, made her calls, started her whispers. After the guests left, Daniel helped clear the dishes. Interesting conversation with Nora, he said. Anything I should be aware of? Charlotte dried a wine glass carefully, set it in the cabinet with the others. No, she said. Good, because the last thing we need is neighborhood gossip, especially with the charity board. These people talk. She understood the warning, understood what was at stake. That night, she blocked Ethan's number from her phone. Friday crawled by like a wounded thing. I split my time between service calls, trying not to think about Charlotte, about the complaint that sat in my file like a ticking bomb, about the way she'd looked at me in the dark laundry room. Riley made jokes about going viral on HOA security cameras. I told her to knock it off. At lunch, I drove past Whitmore Court, didn't slow down, didn't stop, just drove past. Back at the shop, I found myself replaying the washer's end cycle chime. I'd recorded it by accident when I was testing Charlotte's machine. The sound was still on my phone, soft and musical and somehow sad. Eddie pulled me aside before closing time. How you holding up? I'm fine. You sure? Because you seem distracted. I looked at him, really looked. Eddie had been married for 20 years, had teenage kids, knew things about life that I was still figuring out. Ever meet someone you couldn't stop thinking about? I asked. Once or twice. What did you do? Depends. Were they available? I thought about Charlotte's wedding ring, about Daniel's cold voice in the kitchen, about the way she'd said he's protecting what's his, like it explained everything. No, I said. They weren't available. Eddie nodded, understanding. Then you walk away, kid. You walk away and you don't look back. Good advice. Smart advice. I should have taken it. Friday night, Nora Green uploaded a new post to the Neighborhood Watch forum. Photo of a man walking away from the Whitmore house. Caption: Mysterious men leaving envelopes. Stay vigilant. The comments started immediately. Speculation, gossip, concern. Jenna saw the post and texted Charlotte, "Want me to report this? This is harassment." Charlotte's reply was immediate. "No, please ignore." But ignoring it didn't make it go away, didn't stop the whispers, didn't undo the damage. Saturday morning, I serviced a townhouse washer for an elderly woman who thanked me for fixing her panic. The words stuck with me, made me think about Charlotte that first morning, overwhelmed by water on antique floors and board meetings gone wrong. I bought a new work shirt that afternoon. Blue, cotton, the kind of thing that would wash clean and wear soft. At home, I laundered it carefully, folded it with sharp creases. Then, I did something I couldn't explain. I placed the paperclip I'd used on Charlotte's door magnet on top of the folded shirt. Small thing, meaningless to anyone else, but it connected us somehow. Reminded me of that moment when the power flickered and we stood in the darkness, not touching but somehow together. I set the bundle on my passenger seat and drove around town, not sure what I was planning to do with it. Saturday night, I drove past Whitmore Court after dark. The gate was up for a delivery van. I could have followed it through, could have driven to her house and left the shirt on her doorstep. Instead, I parked 2 streets over and walked. Quiet streets, expensive houses, the smell of lemon oil drifting from the hedges. I stood at the edge of her property for maybe 5 minutes, looking at the dark windows, the porch light humming softly in the night air. Then, I walked back to my car without leaving anything. Sunday, 1:55 a.m. My phone lit up with an unknown number, video message, 10 seconds long. I almost didn't open it. Unknown numbers usually meant spam, or wrong numbers, or trouble, but something made me tap the screen. The video showed a laundry room, white cabinets, stainless steel washer, the end cycle chime playing soft and clear. Then the image shifted. A window, a porch light blinking, 2 quick flashes, then one long, steady glow. No words, no explanation, just the pattern we'd seen when the power flickered, when we'd stood together in the half dark and breathed the same air. I knew what it meant, understood the code she was sending. I was in my car 5 minutes later. The streets were empty, night quiet except for the sound of my engine and my heart beating too fast. I drove the speed limit, stopped at every red light, tried to look normal even though nothing about this felt normal. I parked 1 block away from Whitmore Court, engine ticking, as it cooled. 2:10 a.m. The side path was dark except for the porch light. Steady now, no more blinking, just a soft hum that seemed to vibrate in my chest. I carried the folded blue work shirt in my hands, the paperclip balanced on top like a tiny offering. No note, no explanation. She'd understand or she wouldn't. The porch was empty, wooden bench under the front window, perfect place to leave something, private, protected. I set the shirt down carefully, made sure the paperclip wouldn't fall. Then, I stood there longer than was smart, looking at the dark house, listening to the night sounds. From somewhere inside, the faintest creak of a floorboard. Someone was awake, watching maybe, waiting. I left without knocking, without calling out, without doing anything that might wake the neighbors or bring Daniel to the window. 2:35 a.m., and I was back in my car, hands shaking on the steering wheel. Sunday morning brought more noise from Nora Green. Another post about laundry gifts from strangers. The woman missed nothing, saw everything, turned ordinary moments into neighborhood drama. Daniel left for a business flight, wheeled suitcase thumping down the front steps. Kiss goodbye that looked more like obligation than affection. I'll be back late Monday, he called from the driveway. Charlotte waved from the doorway, waited until his car disappeared around the corner. Then she walked to the porch bench. The blue work shirt was exactly where I'd left it, folded neat, paperclip balanced on top. She picked it up carefully, held it against her chest for a moment. Jenna texted, "How's your Sunday?" Charlotte replied with a photo of scones. Normal, domestic, nothing to worry about. But inside, she carried the shirt to the laundry room, fingered the paperclip, set her wedding ring on the washer for just a second, then put it back on. The shirt smelled like detergent and something else, something that reminded her of kindness, of steady hands fixing broken things. She folded it again and tucked it inside a linen drawer where it wouldn't be found. Sunday evening, I drove to the municipal pier, sat in my car with the engine off, and sipped coffee from the thermos Charlotte had given me. It still tasted like her kitchen, like that morning when everything seemed possible. I recorded the washer chime one more time, then deleted it, then recorded silence instead. At home, I placed my phone face down and opened the route list for Monday. New calls, new customers, new problems to solve. But I kept thinking about the way Charlotte had looked at me in the doorway that first morning. Grateful, surprised, like someone had finally showed up when she needed them most. Some people fixed pipes, some fixed panic, some fixed the space between what was broken and what was whole. I fell asleep thinking about warm cotton and the smell of lemon oil, about the sound of a door magnet clicking open, about the way her fingers had felt when she took the ring from my palm. Monday morning would bring new service calls, new chances to help people with broken washers and flooded floors, new opportunities to be useful. But some doors, once opened, never quite closed all the way. Some connections, once made, hummed quietly in the background like porch lights in the dark. Some people came to repair washing machines and ended up fixing something else entirely. Monday, 6:50 a.m. The sun was rising over streets that looked the same as always but felt different somehow. Changed, like everything was exactly where it belonged and exactly where it shouldn't be, all at the same time. Some people fix pipes, some fix panic. The rest is just clean, warm cotton cooling in your hands. If the porch light blinks, you already know what it means.